Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Welcome to this press conference where we are discussing the amendment bill number 2 that was passed yesterday. This bill was passed in the National Assembly with a positive vote of 191 members of Parliament. You will discover that this bill was voted for by 191 members of Parliament, and from the MDC side you will also discover that the number of people who voted no and the number of people who voted yes is almost the same. In other words, the MDC vote was divided. The bill introduced, among other things, 6 main items. It introduced the amendment to the running mate clause. It also introduced the amendment to the appointment of judges clause. It also introduced an amendment which sought the extension of the women's quota by another 10 years. The other amendment related to the youth quota, where we are going to be having a youth representative in each of the 10 provinces. It also has introduced a women's quota within councils and is dealing with the issue of devolution. Out of those 6 issues, the MDC supports 4 of those issues. The MDC supports women's quota, the MDC supports the youth quota, the MDC supports again the quota for women in the councils and supports devolution. However, the MDC does not support an unnecessary amendment of the Constitution. It is our view, and it has always been our view, that in any amendment there must be wide consultations, there must be dialogue, there must be involvement of the stakeholders before any amendment can be made. But we also think that constitutional amendments cannot be made to solve internal party issues, to solve like what the running mate clause does, to apparently resolve the issues of succession within a political party. We also don't think that it is right for the ZANU-PF to abuse its supermajority. But our MPs were faced with a genuine dilemma. So was the MDC as a party. At the stage that the bill had reached, it had to be voted as a whole. In other words, it was not divisible. So the choices that faced each individual MP was a choice between rejecting everything in the bill and also in the process rejecting the women's quota, the youth quota, the judges clause. It was a genuine dilemma that our MPs were faced with, and therefore they voted using their conscience. Those who voted yes mostly were voting for the women's quota, youth quota, the quota for women in the councils, and for devolution. And those who voted no from our camp were voting no to the running mate and the judges clause. For that reason, the MPs were faced with a genuine dilemma, and we think that their behavior was reasonable. There is therefore no action, adverse action that is going to be taken by the party against any of these MPs. The issues that are in this bill, some of them are, in our view, benefit the people of Zimbabwe. We want the advancement of women. We want women to take part in the political, economic and social affairs of our country. And in order to do that, they must have reasonable power. And they can get this power through being in the legislature. Being in the legislature also opens opportunity for women to be in the executive. So by and large, the women's quota advances democracy, advances affirmative action and action for women. Our Women's Assembly, led by Mama Dorothy Bebe here, who has joined us, had a meeting on Friday, on Saturday, this Saturday, I think the 17th. And in their national executive, they spoke in favor of the women's quota. Our Youth Assembly followed with a meeting on the 18th of April, and they reiterated their support for the youth quota. In fact, our philosophy as the MDC is that the youths are not leaders of tomorrow, they are leaders of today. They must be represented as a demographic group in parliament. To that extent, they supported the amendment. The issues of devolution, the introduction of the provincial councils for Harare and the Bulawayo Metropolitan, again with a favorable contingent of women, it passes through an important stage, and that stage is called the commit stage. It is at that stage that the members of parliament go through each and every one of the clauses and determine whether they accept it or not. And where they are not happy with the amendment, with the clause, those who so wish ask for division of the House. So we noticed that from some of the members of parliament who are making noise now, they did not attend the committee stage for one reason or another. This is the stage where the running mate clause was put to the National Assembly and it passed. The judges clause passed, the women's clause passed, the youth clause passed, etc. That is an important stage. Then the last stage is where they are voting for the entire bill. Now they are at that stage, which was the stage yesterday. You cannot pick and choose the clauses. So either you accept the amendment as it is or reject it as it is. So the risks that were there in rejecting it as it is, as I have said, rejection of also what was positive in the bill. Accepting it, of course, meant also accepting what was in the entire bill, including the clause that we object to. This bill is going to be subjected to Senate, and it is our intention as the MDC to engage with the ZANU-PF before this bill comes to the Senate with the concerns that we have as a political party. We want to make it clear to the people of Zimbabwe that we will always act in the best interest of the majority of the Zimbabweans. And to the women of Zimbabwe, we shall act in the best interest of the women in Zimbabwe. And that includes making sure that they are represented. To the youth of Zimbabwe, we will make sure that we act in the best interest of the youth, and in conjunction with our philosophy that the youths are leaders of today and not leaders of tomorrow. So with those remarks, I wish to end here, and we will be glad to field any questions from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. I think we have heard what the President has said. It looks from my side that this was rational disputation bundled into one bill. So let's see if they are going to unpack and unbundle that bill in the Senate. So we'll proceed with rounds of questions, points of clarity from members of the committee. I would like you to show by hands, move in that direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. then we'll take the next draft. We will shoot already.
Just to check you, in 2013, you were part of the COPA co-chair. You consulted the people when it comes to the constitution. When it comes to the constitution, was it the will of the people that MDC MPs represented yesterday?
Sorry, it's continuing with the question part. Was it?
Was it the will of the people that MDC MPs represented, considering the formulation of the constitution?
Mr. Dube, if the gentlemen and ladies would introduce themselves.
Oh, yes.
Media houses.
Yes, please.
Chakunda Mandela Freelance.
Chakunda Mandela. Yes.
My name is Blessed Mhlanga. I'm with Heart and Soul TV and radio. The vote that happened yesterday, you said your MPs were torn apart because there are certain things that you also wanted and certain things that you did not want. But going into that, I'm sure the party knew that there's going to be this vote, and you have a whipping system in Parliament. Did you have a strategy going in there? Or you just left it to chawe? Did you have a strategy going there? And the second thing is that there was consultation on this, and also reading the committee report that was produced after consultation, especially of Amendment Bill number 2. The report itself is very clear that it was, people did not want this amendment. The report itself from Parliament. So, as MPs went in, who were they representing? Because the people who were consulted had said no. And then you say you're acting in the best interest of the people, when the people themselves had said no. So which people are you talking about? Are you talking about the 60 people who are going to benefit from the proportional representation that you are extending? Which people exactly? Thank you.
Robert from SlyMedia. Maybe just to add from what Blessed said, you said you are, as a party, acting in the best interest of women. The women themselves are saying they want 50-50, not the quota. So which women are you talking about?
Thank you.
Well, Muna Kolisan, Wisdom Africa. Comrade Mwonzora, two questions. Number one, on amendment number 1, we saw the MDC in Senate supporting it, save for Baba Abraham, the chairman, who came out and said, I don't vote for the amendment number 1. It sought to deal with the judges and the appointment of judges by the president. Come to amendment number 2, also deals with the judges partly into it. So my question is, did you not know about these amendments that are coming, these 2 amendments, and how they are interlinked somehow dealing with the judicial issues? Then second, we have seen there's a belief that the current amendments are all entrenching the executive, giving Mnangagwa some kind of more power to appoint judges, to extend years of judges, and appoint the vice president, remove the people from the issue of the vice president. In your view, do you share that thought to say the current bills that have come so far in Parliament, be it in the National Assembly, are all entrenching authority and power to one person, who is the president in this case?
Thank you. And the last one.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Lyoko from New Zimbabwean. To the president of the NDCT, in the context of you having voted for the amendments, for the amendment and for the bill in its wholesome nature, do you think it is good not just for the women or the youth, but in the interests of all Zimbabweans? You were using the word interests of, so I'm just trying to play around with your own words. In the interests of Zimbabwe, besides just the women and the youth. And then to what extent, I'm building on to Kolisan's question, to what extent does ZANU-PF and ultimately President Emerson Mnangagwa benefit from this amendment in the context of him having the power to appoint judges without public interviews and stuff like that. And then are you comfortable knowing Mnangagwa will now have this kind of power to extend, let's say, Luke Malawa's tenure post 70 years?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are not here to defend the amendments. We have said as the MDC that we are against amending the constitution without wide enough consultation. Having said that, the first question that my brother, the freelance, asked was, did the vote reflect the will of the people? Did the vote by the MDC represent the will of the people? The MDC did not vote consistently on this bill. They voted no, they voted yes. Those who voted no principally against the two clauses. The running mate clause, and as you know, the logic of the running mate clause is to make sure that succession is definite. When the president goes into an election, the presidential candidate goes into the election, they choose their running mate, they choose the vice president, who in the event of them dying or leaving office for any reason, automatically take over. So it is an advantageous system of running mate. And we were not happy with the removal of that clause. Certain of our MPs then voted against that clause. Then if you go to the appointment of the judges, again, the clause says that judges can be appointed without the need for interview, and also you can have the extension of judges' terms beyond the ordinary retirement age. Again, the position of the party there was that we do not agree. And certain of our MPs voted no. So if the people did not agree, those MPs agreed with the people and represented the will of the people. But you also had clauses that are objectively for the benefit of Zimbabwean democracy. The clauses that dealt with the women's quota and the representation of women. We are aware that the women of Zimbabwe want 50-50. But I am sure that to the women of Zimbabwe, half a loaf is definitely better than nothing. The women's quota is actually the next better thing to the 50-50 principle that we want to reach. So those MPs who voted for the women's quota voted for something progressive, voted for something that advances democracy, and therefore they represented the will of the people. The Zimbabwean youths have been abused for years. They are the hewers of wood and drawers of water. They are used to do despicable things. And after the election, they are discarded. And the clause that says that there will be a youth quota in parliament is to that extent a form of advancement to the youth, to the interest of the youth. You need also affirmative action in the councils. You need more women in the councils. It stands to reason. And also you require devolution. So when it came to the issue of affirmative action for women, affirmative action for the youth, it was to us as the MDC a demand for the youth themselves, a demand for the women themselves. It was sensible. Therefore, we are using this to justify to you the genuine dilemma that our MPs fell into. And we have said that we don't think that the way this amendment was done is the best way that the amendment could be done, or future amendments must be done. This is a people's document. It was adopted at a referendum, and it requires more consultation. That consultation did not come yesterday, and our members of parliament were faced with a genuine situation, and some of them voted against certain clauses, and some of them voted for certain clauses, and for that reason they voted with their conscience. I think there was a question. My brother blessed the whipping system, that we should have whipped MPs. The question is, we should have whipped them to reject which one? Should we have whipped them to reject 50-50? Sorry, to reject the quota system in the absence of 50-50? I don't think that was a good idea. Should we have whipped our MPs to reject the youth quota? Again, we don't think it was a good idea. Yes, we told our MPs that, by and large, we thought that this bill was not good law, that the bill was not good law, and that the way it was being amended was not the correct way. But remember that in that parliament, ZANU-PF enjoys a supermajority. So when it came to the issues of procedure, they prevailed. And once they prevailed, our MPs were in a genuine situation. At any rate, if you go to the answer, the MPs debated in extenso against these two amendments. Does the amendment give more power to the president? Yes, two of the amendments that we are opposed to, the running mate as well as the judge's clause, give power, too much power to the president. And that is what the source of our discomfort. I don't think the amendment relating to the quota for women gives power to the president. I don't think so. I don't think the amendment relating to the youth gives power to the president. I also don't think that the amendment introducing a women's quota in council gives power to anyone, let alone the president. Yes, so yes, you have certain of those clauses giving power to the president, and certain of those clauses not so much giving power to the president. As I said, going into the future, this is not the best way of doing these amendments. We require more consultation, we require more dialogue on these issues. Why the MDCT favors dialogue is that where another party holds a supermajority in parliament, dialogue is the best way, because if you go the confrontational route, the moment you enter the parliamentary gates, then you have lost, because people just vote according to the party. The best interest of the Zimbabwean people, I think by and large, if we look at some of the clauses, the women's quota, the youth quota, devolution, those are things that I think advance democracy and are to that extent justifiable. We are not justifying the clause that deals with the judges. We are not justifying the clause that deals with the running mate.
Thank you very much. It's time on steps for this end.
Mine was it.
Which one was it?
On looking at this,
There was, sorry, my friend, sorry. There was a question on whether MPs were whipped at any stage. At this stage, at the last stage, no, they were not whipped. The committee, we debate clause by clause. Yes, they were whipped. They were whipped to oppose the running mate clause, and they did. They were whipped to oppose the judge's clause, and yes, they did. They were whipped to support something progressive for women, something that advances women, and they did. They were whipped to support something that advances the interests of those people marginalized and abused, the youths, and they did. So at that stage, what the leadership should have done, of course, was to call for the division of the house. But as you know, ZANU-PF enjoys a supermajority.
Thank you. Second round, your question was on the wholesome impact.
No, not impact. As in looking at the whole amendments in their wholesome nature, whether President Douglas Mwonzora believes what he did and the colleagues who voted for it was good and in the interest of Zimbabwe, and whether or not he is comfortable knowing that they could have played.
Let me correct you. I didn't vote. I am a senator. I am not in the National Assembly.
I mean as the president of the MDC.
Okay. As the president of the MDC, I'm a president of people who voted in two conflicting ways. There are people who voted yes. There are people who voted no. So it is not correct to say the MDC voted in an equivocal yes or in an equivocal no. The MDC MPs were divided, and upon interrogation of the MPs, they were divided on the basis that some were saying the running mate clause, the judge's clause, we don't support this, and that is the party position. But there is also the party position that supports the other clauses. So it was a genuine dilemma that they were faced with, and that is why we accept their conscience. But overall, our own belief is that before any amendments may be done, there must be dialogue, there must be discussion on the best way forward and what is in the best interest of the Zimbabwean people. So that is why we have said that this was not the best way of carrying on this amendment. But reality is reality, the amendment is there, a vote took place, we are waiting for that bill in the Senate.
Thank you. The second round will start from this end. Remember to introduce yourself.
President of the NDC, you mentioned that in general terms, the party does not believe that the constitution should be amended that way. But given the obvious numerical disadvantage here in Parliament, do you think that having the MPs voting conflicting in a conflicting voice, yes and no, did you think that it would change anything? Would you not have been prudent to say, given that overall we don't agree to the constitutional amendment, then the party should just have voted no, so that you stand with your general thinking? Given that some people voted total majority, it was not going to make any difference anyway.
Okay. Moving from this side. You haven't spoken. Yes, okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My name is Richard Dumponde from Newsday. Yeah, most of what I wanted to ask you has been covered, but from what you said, my brother there, President Mwonzora was in the forefront in making this constitution. He was part of the co-pack. And I remember seeing him presented some forums where he was saying they supported the new constitution because they wanted to remove excess powers from Mugabe and also to deal with the succession issue. But now, today, is the same person now who is allowing the amendments to go on barely 10 years after the constitution has been adopted through a referendum. So, what has changed from what he was believing before the new constitution and now? And a second one, and last. And also, MDCT is saying it's not dining or it's not in bed with ZANU-PF. How do you justify where MPs of MDCT vote together with ZANU-PF in the eyes of the public? Because yes, you can say so in words, but indeed the public has seen you in bed with ZANU-PF.
Yeah, sure. I just have two quick questions. Again, my name is Blessed Mnangagwa from Heart and Soul TV and Radio. On a balance of probability, what percentage of the constitutional amendment did your party agree with, and what percentage of it did your party not agree with? In terms of the weight, would you, for instance, tread to say we would rather defend the proportional representation and hand over power, executive power, to one individual? In weighing it, what would make sense to you? To simply say no to the whole thing because one of the clauses is just so bad that you can't accept it, or you could then accept it? Then the second question is, does the Constitution in its current format not protect the rights of women? Does the Constitution in its current format, without being amended, not protect sufficiently the rights of women? Because the Constitution, from my understanding, in its current format...
Oh, please, Blessed.
Yes.
Ask a question, don't lecture us.
No, I want to...
Ask the question.
Yes.
We want to hear the question.
The question has been asked,
yes,
but I want to put the context so that I do not have to follow
The
up.
question is, does the Constitution,
Yeah.
as it stands,
Yes.
not protect women enough without the necessity
Of amendment.
of an amendment?
Yes, but I just
Yes,
want
so
to
the
highlight.
question has been-
I want to highlight where I am getting the question, so that when you answer, you have sight of where I'm coming from. So I do understand that the Constitution provides for a 50-50 in terms of parliamentary representation, in terms of commissions and appointments. It provides that. So is that clause not sufficient enough in protecting the rights of women?
Let's speed up to our question.
Thomas Maduku, Finland. You are a senator. Are you going to vote for the bill when it comes to Senate?
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Silvester. My question actually is, are you going to vote yes on the bill? And then number two is, can you rate or scale this bill out of 10? If you say, which one would you say in favor of, and then the other one which you're not in favor of? Then number three is, what was the division looking like? Was it a 50-50 division from your MPs? Because they're saying some said yes, some said no.
Okay.
Was it 50-50? What was the kind of percentage? And then the third question goes to the youth leader.
This is now your fourth.
Fine, fourth or fifth. This one goes to the youth leader. You did vote yes to the bill yesterday, and we are looking at how this bill is being spelled out, and obviously these youths are going to be promoted coming out from the 10 provinces, and almost 7 out of 10 they will come from Zambia. Was the conscience so clear when you did vote yesterday?
Thank you very much for those questions.
Thank you. Let me answer Blessed's question first, if I may. It's a question that I really understood. That's why I didn't want him to bother going any further. And the question is a very good one. Does the current constitution not protect women enough? The current constitution provides for a women's quota. And it was adjudged to be good by the people in 2013 when they voted for it. They voted for the women's quota. The amendment yesterday sought to extend the women's quota by another 10 years. What was going to happen if this amendment did not happen is that the women's quota was going to end. And therefore the 60 women who are in parliament were not going to be in parliament come the next time. We don't think that is a good idea. The constitution does not really protect women the way we would have wanted. If you look at the 50-50 clauses, they are aspirational. They are dependent on other things. They are not definitive clauses. They are not mandatory clauses. So to that extent, it does not protect women. It was going to be made worse if the women's quota was going to come to an abrupt end. It means in one swoop, we were not going to have those 60 women in parliament. But we are saying as a political party that there must be a law that must legislate the 50-50 principle to the political parties. Each political party which is fielding candidates must be compelled to comply with the gender principle. Then the question of trade-off, it wasn't a trade-off at all. It was not a trade-off between proportional representation and the powers of the president to appoint a judge without interview. Now, which one is important? To have more youth in parliament, or to have more women in parliament, or to have the president appoint judges? It depends on what you think is important. I think the representation of women, the representation of the youth as a marginalized group in organs of power is important. But of course, there was no trade-off yesterday. I just want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, especially the gentleman I think talked about, we were at the forefront of COPAC, and we were advancing the constitution. Now, if you go back to the COPAC, we were trying to keep excessive presidential powers in the country. But we were also trying to advance the women, the rights of the women, who constitute 50%, 52% of our country. Now, we think that the rights of people who constitute 50%, 52% of our country are very, very important. And this amendment, sir, is not being brought by the MDCT. It is an amendment that is being brought in a parliament where MDCT is. And the MDCT tried at committee stage to stop the objectionable parts of the amendments, and you can go to the hazard. The MDCT tried at that stage to promote those amendments that it thought benefited Zimbabweans. That was at committee stage. At the voting stage, the dilemma is, do you vote for the entire amendment and in the process allow the two objectionable amendments? Or do you vote against the entire amendment and sacrifice the other four beneficial issues that were in the amendment? That was the genuine dilemma that the MDC was in. But it would be wrong for all of you to think that the Constitution amendment process ended yesterday. You know for certain that there is a Senate. The Constitution amendment is being brought to the Senate, and that it is going to be debated in the Senate, and a vote is going to take place in the Senate. Discussions are going to take place in the Senate, and so on. And what happens is that should there be dialogue, certain adjustments to the bill will be done or may be done. And if those adjustments to the bill are satisfactory, then we will be happy. If we are unhappy, if they are not done, then also we will not be happy. It will be premature to preempt what the vote is going to be like in the Senate, because the bill may not be exactly the same when it comes to voting time in the Senate. Our experience is that if you make your argument before the Minister of Justice and the other people, they may agree to amendment of certain clauses, and when it comes to vote, it will be a slightly different bill to the bill that was in the National Assembly. Therefore, at this stage, we can't tell you whether we are going to vote yes or we are going to vote no. But to allay your fears, to allay the fears of the people of Zimbabwe, we have a two-chamber system of parliament. We have the National Assembly. Things did not go as well in the National Assembly, but we are happy that 4 out of the 6 issues are beneficial to the Zimbabweans. We are not happy that the 2 issues that we did not succeed in are not in the best interest of the Zimbabweans. But we still have the Senate vote that is coming. We still have the Senate debate that is there. And by the way, in the Senate, that's where you have the president, one of the vice presidents, and the national chairperson of the party. They are all senators. So debate is going to take place in the Senate, and we don't want to preempt that debate. The division was almost 50-50. The division, especially among the MDC. And we have heard people saying, oh, the MDC Chamisa's group voted yes, also voted no, and the Mwonzora's group voted yes. That's not correct. We have members who are pro-Chamisa who voted yes. We have members who are in our group who voted no. They are there. An example is our Vice President Kupe, our Secretary General, our Deputy Chief Whip. They voted no. They voted with their conscience. So it is not true that there is a group that you guys want to promote that it voted no. It's not correct. Some voted yes, some voted no, and it was 50-50 in that group. So it can be 50-50 in that group and can be 50-50 in our group. I don't think that is fair.
So as a question, tackling specifically to the youth chair.
The youth chair. Oh, you have a question and answer. Okay. What was it? Sorry.
The question was, you were clear that...
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Sorry. I jotted it down. And the question amounted to whether we should have boycotted the vote in the parliament. Now, before the MDC embarks on boycott, it has to have a resolution on boycotting. And we do not have a resolution on boycotting at all. Right now, what we are saying to us is that you should have just walked out of that parliament, or should just have kept quiet in that parliament. We don't think it was a good idea, given the fact that this is still ongoing. We are still going to have a debate in the Senate.
I'll treat your question as a supplementary.
Supplementary. I think the president didn't get my question right. It was not suggesting that you should be boycotting. I was looking at what you said, to say, in general terms, the party does not agree to unnecessary amendments to the Constitution. Now you have a numerical disadvantage. And whether you voted some yes, some no, the result was still going to be the same. Now, to show your reservations about amendment to the Constitution, which you say is what generally you believe in, was it not prudent that you should just have voted no as a block? Because even those issues that you wanted were still going to sail through in any way, in any case, because that is voted through.
Okay, I see. Well, first of all, it is not our nature as the MDC to quit, to say that we are surrendering everything to ZANU-PF. The second thing is whether the no vote was the correct thing to do. It remains to be seen, really. But no to the entire amendment at that stage. If the vote had been called at committee stage, it would have been different. Because at committee stage, they will say, what's your vote on the running mate? Then we vote. What's your vote on the judges? Then we vote. No, we vote no. And what is your vote on the women's quota? We were going to vote yes. What is your vote on the youth quota? We were going to vote yes. What is your vote on devolution? We were going to vote yes. Now, we have a bittersweet bill. What do we do about it? What we do about it, and which is our strategy, is that we take it through the mill. It is dealt with at the National Assembly level. If we succeed, we deal with it at the Senate level. So if we start having a position in the National Assembly, let's say the vote is no, as you were saying, and we go to the Senate and we are able to force changes, we are stuck with the no vote when the bill is now good. So it is never a good idea to commit yourself at that stage. So we are going to be debating this bill. We are going to be dialoguing or seeking dialogue on this bill before it comes to the Senate and during the time that it is going to be debated in the Senate.
I think let's go to something one more. Something else. So we'll get to general stage of supplementary questions. Yeah, yourself. Let me just get the hands that want to put in a few more questions so that we can close this. You are one. Do you think you still want to go in lesson? Okay. 2 and 3. Those will be our final hands for the day, gentlemen. So after them, you start off leader one with your response, then the president, and then we are done for the day.
So, Senator Mwonzora, I just want to find out, are you happy with all the aspects of the devolution, which are in favor? Are you happy with the manner in which the devolution funds have been handled so far? Are you happy? But then the second one is, you confirmed that there were pro-MP Chamisas, MPs in Parliament. You are the president of the opposition Parliament. Are you confirming that you are leading a polarized Parliament from an opposition point of view? And why are you still keeping people who are supporting Chamisa when he is no longer a party member or party leader Ezekiel?
I read today the deputy spokesperson of the MDCT, Mr. Kalipani Pugel, in his statement where he said that he was disappointed that your vice president, who is not here, the deputy president who is not here, Dr. Thokozani Kupe, was disappointed in yourself and other MPs for siding and voting with the ZANU-PF in this. Do you really have this party under control?
Yes, Mwonzora, do you think that the recalls that you did as MDCTO have had an impact in terms of parliamentary representation? Do you feel that you could have probably hoped, even though you could already have the two majority, but do you think that they would have also assisted in your advancing your cause, as well as given that even in Senate, ZANU-PF has a majority, and that the two clauses are being advanced by the executive, given that the Chief Justice tenure is ending in May. Do you foresee ZANU-PF coming to agree to remove that clause, as well as removing the clause of the running mate?
Thank you very much. Leader, you want to start off and the president will close the call.
Thank you so much. Before I'm a member of parliament, I'm a Zimbabwean youth. And yes, my conscience was very clear yesterday. And whether the 7 youths are going to come from ZANU-PF or they're going to come from MDC, I'm comfortable with that because they're Zimbabwean youth and they will represent the will of the youth of Zimbabwe. When I'm in parliament, I'm not just doing MDC business. I'm on national duty, and I'll be representing the youth of Zimbabwe. So yes, let me just say that I was very clear, my mind was very clear, and my conscience was very clear yesterday. And let me just finish by, my brother, you are not a prophet who can tell me that in the next election we have 7 youths coming from Zambia. You might be shocked when MDC brings in 7 MPs from the youth. Thank you.
And let me just add that to what Yvonne has said, that the decision that the youth made in Parliament was not an individual decision. They had a Youth National Executive Committee meeting on.
We've been in the struggle for a very long time. Zimbabwe has had conflicts for a long time. What we are witnessing at the moment is the shift of our strategy. We have adopted a strategy of national dialogue, and it is at its infancy, and we are in a transition to an effective dialogue strategy. All what we are doing here is that you choose between the hard bargaining strategy or the soft bargaining strategy. And in the hard bargaining strategy, whether you say no or yes, the results are the same. This is what we are all saying. But at the end of the day, when you change the strategy from hard position to a soft position, we want to make sure that the people of Zimbabwe benefit. Here we are looking at 2 sides. We are looking at our women who are going to lose governance participation in 2023. And we can't throw that away. To me, there's no democracy without women. There's no democracy without youth. Those are major fundamental issues that we must consider in the country. And we want to bring food on the people's tables. We've moved away from stone throwing to providing issues on the table for the people of Zimbabwe. And we've started by providing those food on our women's tables. We are so proud as a party that our women are going to be in the government or in Parliament for the extra 10 more years. Actually, our wish as MDCT is that clause must be indefinite. The women must be represented. It has been proven in Africa that if you do not put a deliberate clause to cover women, they will not be in Parliament. One time I went to Nigeria, they removed that clause. Nigeria has 450 members of Parliament, and by that particular time there were only 7 women, because they have gone for a strategy. And we are very clear about it. We are very clear that we want to promote our youth. Yes, of course, the youth chairperson has said they may come from this city, they may come from Zambia, but at the end of the day, they are youth. The principle is that, are we clear in our conscience that we must support our youth? Yes, we are clear. Our strategy is going to, we are going to be negotiators, engagers. That's our strategy. We are going to engage. We may see as if we have lost today, but in a short period of time that's going to come, we are going to see victory. Because we strongly believe as leaders in this city that dialogue is a strategy. In the key strategy that we want to make sure that we build this back, we will promote it. Litigation is a strategy as well. Military intervention is a strategy as well. But rest assured, you can either win militarily or lose. You can win in court or lose. But in strategy of national dialogue, you will never go away with emptiness. So the leadership that you see here has moved away from previous strategies to a new strategy. So we have said it all. We didn't win everything. We are clear that we don't want any clause that gives power to President Mnangagwa. We don't support that. But we lost it. But we don't support that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we like to appreciate what you are saying and what you are doing. But we are clear on what we want to achieve. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, before we wind up, I just wanted the chair for the women, if she has anything to add before I answer the last bit of questions. Over to you, Mama Bebe.
Thank you very much, President. I have only 3 issues which I want to explain to this house. One, asking you why you I think that is a way of correcting things. When
you may have to drop your mask so that they hear you.
I'm saying I have only 3 issues. The first issue is the question of why are you in dialogue? Even in your house, even in the family, everything which is not right is corrected by dialogue. If you don't dialogue, you end up blocking everything, windows, doors, codes, because you don't dialogue. You always believe in breaking things. You always believe that things are corrected by fighting. That is the important one. The second one, even if we go back to the history, Joshua Mbomu, the late Joshua Mbomu, joined with ZANU-PF instead of to conquer conflict which was in Zimbabwe, which ended up with a strategy of Mnangagwa, something, or you know what I'm talking about, even though I can't even explain all of them. But I think dialogue is the best thing to correct things. And in Zimbabwe, my last issue is, in Zimbabwe, I think we are totally wrong when we believe that when a person is in the opposition or supporting the opposition part, everything which is done, we are supposed to say is wrong, even though it is not wrong. Like what my president said, that there were certain bills which we supported. That's why our MPs voted yes. And the other one again, that's why our MPs voted no. Because we know what is right and we know what is wrong.
Thank you very much. Maybe to wind up, there is a question about the use of devolution funds, whether we are happy about the use of the devolution funds. We are certainly not happy about the use of the devolution funds. The first thing is that the provincial councils that are supposed to administer these funds have not been put into place. They have not been operationalized. And we have seen a lot of these funds being used in a manner that promotes one political party. So we are certainly not happy. It's one of the issues that we wanted to discuss with the ministers and with other government officials. We are not happy with the distribution of devolution funds. The next question was whether there were MPs who are pro this one and who are pro that one. Yes, they are, and you have given them to us. I was referring to the article that was on the social media that sought to demarcate the MPs. And having looked at that list that came from you as journalists, I was able to say that, but this one that they say supports Advocate Chamisa voted yes, and so on. That was the only point I was making. The statement by Pugeni, I haven't seen it. But let me just say that there are 4 top leaders of the MDC in the parliament. The 4 top leaders in the presidium. 3 of those are in the Senate, and 1 is in the National Assembly. In fact, Dr. Kupe is the leader of the opposition in the National Assembly. This is her responsibility. So I'm sure she was there in the National Assembly yesterday. I am not so sure whether she was in the National Assembly at committee stage, where individual aspects of this bill would have been dealt with. But I don't understand why Pugeni says that Dr. Kupe is disappointed in me for the way I voted. I did not vote yesterday. I do not sit in the National Assembly. I sit in the Senate. The bill has not yet come to the Senate. So there is nothing to be disappointed by the way I voted, because it did not happen. I did not vote. And therefore, I doubt the correctness of your statement. I also doubt...
He didn't say that you voted. He said that Dr. Kupe...
You didn't...
Dr. Kupe is disappointed in what people who are aligned to you and yourself have influenced the vote. So there is an insinuation that you are behind those votes, the yes vote in that statement. It doesn't say you cast a vote.
Oh, I see. Well, I did not hear him saying that. But to explain to you, I was not in the National Assembly. I don't vote in the National Assembly. I did not influence the vote in the National Assembly. But there are people in the National Assembly who voted no, and so on. So, but to answer your question, are you in control of the party? Yes, we are in the control of the party. The fact that I am not trigger happy does not mean that I am not in control. I am very much in control of the party, and so on. I will interrogate what Senator Pugen meant when I meet him. I will also talk to Dr. Kupe when I meet her today. But certainly, your information is not correct, or his information is not correct. Senator Pugen also does not sit in the National Assembly. He sits in the Senate, and I was with him in the Senate as the vote was happening in the National Assembly. He definitely saw me. The recalls have had no effect on the current goings on. The ZANU-PF enjoyed the supermajority as at the time of the end of the election of 2018. The recalls have absolutely no effect. The recalls do not in any way affect the power dynamics, did not affect the power dynamics within this parliament. Unfortunately for us, unfortunately for everyone, ZANU-PF attained a supermajority in 2018. Recalls or no recalls, it doesn't make a difference at all. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we just want to say to you is that this is an ongoing process. The issue about this bill is not done and dusted. It is something that is coming to the Senate and so on. But we believe that the MPs who voted yes looking at the people issues. Whether you think the advancement of women is less important than the appointment of a judge is a value proposition, it's a value question. There are people who think advancing women is the most important thing. Advancing the youth is the most important thing. There are people who think that. There are people who think electoral reforms are more important than anything else. So that value judgment we cannot make. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming to this press conference. It has been a very long one, and I hope that it has been informative to you. Mrs. Njovu is a multilingual, and she speaks both. She speaks English, Shona, Ndebele, I think, and a little bit of Venda, Soko. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much, Yvonne. We are very happy about what is happening in the party. I'm sure you are following the restructuring exercise that is taking place in the MDCT. And the crowds that are coming, they put paid to the proposition. I wish Blessed was here. They put paid to the proposition that we do not have a following. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.